Another week has passed and we're on to another week of the top 10 best decks. We just had Lil Regionals kind of shake the metagame up a little bit, so there has been some movement this week. That being said, we will be covering the top 10 best decks in format. In the pinned comments in the comment section, you can see all the copy and pastable lists, and of course, let us know which decks you think are going to be in the top 10, or maybe the decks that you think deserve to be in the top 10. We do get back to all comments on this channel, so be sure to check that out. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's jump into our number 10 pick. Kicking off our list at number 10 is going to be Cloth. Cloth is kind of clawing its way back into this list, and it's because it has a decent matchup spread across the board. I mean, we are kind of a single prize card attacking deck. We have the fighting type, Cloth, that's going to be great against things like Terrapagos, Iron Thorns, and of course we have the grass type Electrode V that's going to be powerful against things such as Charizard EX. We can get to those numbers with super effective glasses, and of course you have that really funny Petulant Poison turn 1 donk potential where you could win the game before your opponents. Decks like Cloth typically struggle with some consistency issues from time to time, which is what holds them back. But at the same time, we don't get enough players, or at least top players, playing decks like this, which is also going to hold the results back too. I'm sure if we saw Tord Reklev, Azul, I'll even throw my name in there playing Cloth at a tournament, it might be doing better and maybe see a few more in day 2. But for the few players that have been playing it, they have been seeing a decent bit of success. And it's really one of those decks where it's cool. If you don't have all the cards for Cloth, be sure to check out Kayfabe cards in the description. They can probably get you the rest of the cards you need, like those hard to find Hisuian Electrode V promos in this case, or the full art from, I believe, Astral. And of course, if you're looking to craft this deck online, you could always use more credits, so pick up some code cards at ptcgeostore.com. Being said, let's see what we got going on at number 9. Falling down to number 9 this week is going to be Dragapult EX. In this case, we're going to be pairing it with Dusknoir. It seems like just a few short weeks ago, we had this deck winning in Europe, and now it's kind of not really here. I think a lot of increased competition from decks such as Regidrago V-Star and very powerful decks such as Lugia, and of course Raging Bolt's dominance over the past few weeks has set this deck back. What could really bring this deck back into the metagame? Well, with metagame shifts, sometimes a deck like this can tackle some of the matchups that might try to cling on to the top. So his players might play Cloth, for example, to try to counter the metagame. I think something like Dragapult could beat some Cloth players, gaining some leverage with some of the different matchups that might try to approach the metagame. I think Dragapult's really a powerful deck, and we're kind of in a case where there's just so many different powerful decks in format that some deck has to just generally be 9th. Like, I think Cloth is a deck that's 10 or below for sure, could be well positioned. A deck like Dragapult could kind of adjust itself week over week and climb within that top, like upper, all the way to the top 5. We've seen how Dragapult's seen success before. It's really a deck that's not a stranger to it, and this is the build that I'd go with. I believe it's Nicholas Galaz's list from top 4 at the Lima special events. Finding itself in the same place as last week is Iron Thorns EX, and I think, again, like Dragapult, we're just finding these decks that they're performing, they're just not performing like winning the regionals or anything else like that. I think Thorns is a natural answer to decks like Lugia. There's a handful of other decks where its initialization ability is absolutely fantastic. I think I've gone with the same build actually week over week, based off Cal Connor's late night winning list with Crushing Hammers and Enhanced Hammer. I did go with a Lost Vacuum and a Jamming Tower, which is to really combat some of Raging Bolt playing more Bravery Charms based off Caleb Gedimer's win. So not really a huge change here, but as the meta kind of progresses, we got to adjust for those techs. We have seen some players such as Stephen Kent who played this deck to Lil regionals, and he went with more of a traditional build with Pokemon catchers. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I think Iron Thorns is a great call if you're trying to beat some of the decks in the metagame. And I mean, I think what's great about Iron Thorns, it beats some of the more difficult decks such as Gardevoir, Banette, whereas other decks really struggle against it. So Iron Thorns could be a sneaky good play, especially if you're trying to beat some of those decks. And as long as you avoid some pretty terrible matchups like Terrapagos, because it can use Noctowl to get around initialization, you could have a really good run. It's a great reminder. We're a couple decks in. Give this video a like. It really does help boost the YouTube algorithm. If you want to let us know in the comments, even if you don't have anything to say, just be like, love the content, or you want to what we want to see this deck, or this is the matchups that you want to watch you and PJ play out. Really does help out the channel a lot. That's the freest way to help support the Shuffle Squad, but you can also check out our new Metafy group in the description for articles and deck lists and all that cool stuff from the squad. Really trying to improve on the content lately. Let's jump into number 7. At number 7, we have Snorlax. Now, Snorlax here might be missing something if you've been keeping up with Snorlax, and that's going to be Rotom V. So we actually had Sander Wojtek, probably not pronouncing that last name correctly, it might be like Wojtek, play in the Lille Regionals, and he's a control master and basically came down to not playing Rotom to give yourself more turns against other decks. Going with a unique build with some very interesting supporter card choices such as Chorus's Experiments, Choi, I had to reread what Choi did, Worker, and Grusha, and including other interesting cards such as Lucky Helmet and Boxed Order. The difference between Genius and brand new player at League is it's wildly how close they are. Because if I saw someone playing Snorlax with Boxed Order, Lucky Helmet, Choi, I would think that I'm playing against maybe someone who's brand new to the game, someone that couldn't necessarily find their 4 Arvins. And here we have one of the best players in the absolute world showing us that it's not always the cookie cutter lists that are getting there. And I think that these are some interesting cards. Like, I'm going to have to dig out of my bulk to grab a copy of Choi. I'm going to have to put Grusha from my almost playables to my playables. So I think it's a really interesting take on the list. If you haven't got a chance to try this one out, I think it's really cool. And I mean, if there's any cards that you need, like those Boxed Orders or any of these one-ofs, again, check out Kayfabe Cards. Let's jump into our number 6 deck. Palkia V-Star continues to be a large threat in the metagame, and I think the top 6 is basically where I think the decks kind of cut off from. These decks are all pretty much interchangeable at any given point. These are really the top 6, and I think it'd be hard for any other deck to kind of penetrate those top 6. Here we have Stefan Ivanov's list from Lille, where he made day 2 and had a successful run at the tournament. I think he only changed 1 card from his last list, in which he made top cut at the other regionals in Europe, was cutting a trekking shoes to go to 2 shoes, to go up to the Lost Vacuums, again to help combat all those Raging Bolts that have those bravery charms. So I think that this build's incredibly good, and I think Stefan's shown success after success when it comes to this deck. So if you are looking to build a deck such as Palkia V-Star, this would really be the build that I'd be going after, because it just seems so incredibly well built. It seems well thought together, and I think all of these like changes are fantastic. So right on the metagame, right on everything. So I like Stefan's build. I think it looks really good. Let me know what you think. Are there any other players' builds that you've been kind of playing around with when it comes to Palkia V-Star? Let me know in the comments. Let's jump into our number 5 deck. Soaring into number 5, we have Charizard EX. The build that we're going with is Sebastian Lashman's list from Louisville Regionals, and I think that's just kind of the way that we should be playing this deck now. Charizard is so well chiseled and built out at this point where it's really hard not to play. Like, sure, maybe you could cut Mist Energy to add something else into the deck. I've seen some players go with 4th Nest Ball, even a Lost Vacuum, or a Jamming Tower, a Temple of Sinnoh. These are all things that are just like, we're pretty much at a 58, 59 card list, and this is really the 58, 59 card list that I'm going with, and I think that the Mist Energy makes a lot of sense with James Cox winning Lille Regionals with Regidrago V-Star. You could prevent that Dragapult from doing some extra damage to your opponent, some Pokemon on your bench, which could prevent some things. I mean, his list didn't play Hawlucha, so it is something to consider. However, you could also put the Mist Energy on your Duskull, or you could put the Mist Energy onto your Pidgey and prevent those from getting knocked out. So really some cool plays across the board when it comes down to it. Do I think that Charizard is a top 5 deck? 100%. Charizard is very well deserving of this spot, and I could see Charizard really winning any of the upcoming major events in our Stellar Crown metagame. We'll have to see if it continuously can hold up to the metagame, but but I think if you're a Charizard player, you really should just be playing a list that's very similar to this list, if not this exact list. Let's see what we got going on at number 4. One of my absolute favorite decks in format, and the deck that brought me to my top 16 at the Lima special event, is Terrapagos EX. Now, Terrapagos EX is one of those decks that has a decent matchup against almost everything. However, you do need a few good things to go your way, such as having a decent setup, which should be easy with all those Hoots and all the Rotoms and all that good stuff. And of course, you'd pretty much want to go first against most decks so you can get that turn 2 attack off with the turtle. I think that a deck like this can be incredibly complex. I mean, any of the Dusknoir decks can be very difficult because it does open up offering prize cards up to your opponents, and this is the build that I'd like to go with going forward. I'm still stuck on I want to play Jet Energy because I think it's so powerful with Blood Moon EX right now, the Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, that is. And I think that it can be incredibly helpful against the Snorlax and other control variants that we have that can sometimes lock your Pokemon out of play. I'm not entirely sure where I'd make the room for it. Right now, I've used my tech slot for Lost Vacuum. Probably heard me talk about Lost Vacuum a whole bunch to kind of get over those Raging Bolts, but Raging Bolt is really a powerful deck, and I mean, Caleb Gedimer and Xander Perot and a few other players really kind of change it up with those extra Bravery Charms, so we got to prepare for that. Maybe there's different ways that I can approach this, like I'm sure there's got to be a different card that I can cut. I'll continuously look for that card. But until then, this is a very powerful build, very similar to what Gabriel Smart played to make top 8 at Louisville, and again, what I played to make top 16 at the Lima special events. We're about to enter into our top 3, some very heavy-hitting decks in our formats. If you haven't put those guesses in the comments, put those guesses in the comments. I'm sure you could all guess them at this point, and if not, I'd love to hear where your comments are. Give this video a like too, and let's jump into that number 3 spot. Jumping into our number 3 spot, we have Regidrago V-Star. We're going to be using James Cox's list in which he won the Lille Regionals with. I think that like the Charizard list that Sebastian played to Louisville is we almost have the exact same thing here with Regidrago, where it's like this looks like a very solid Regidrago build. The only card that I'd want to add in here is going to be a Hawlucha, just for any of those Charizards or Dreepy. As those decks have kind of fallen a little bit out of favor towards the metagame, I think it's one of those things where you might actually not need the Hawlucha, but if you do see a lot of 70 HP Pokemon kind of jumping back into the metagame, that would be where you'd want to have it. I think all the tech cards here are incredibly powerful. I think a deck like Regidrago V-Star is incredibly skill-based. And to me, this is really a deck that, if you're not testing this deck for a regionals, you should be testing on how to beat it, because the best players in the game typically are playing Regidrago, Raging Bolt, and Lugia right now. And I know we haven't seen Raging Bolt and Lugia, but maybe we'll see those decks in the top 2. Not going to leave too much foreshadowing here, but really this is a deck that I would play test against when it comes down to it. Or if you're not playtesting against, you might want to be considering this deck because it is just so good. Being able to copy anything that you want and all the powerful decisions that you can make in a particular turn. Again, I'd go with this exact 60 going forward, see how the metagame changes, but it is a fantastic deck choice. That being said, let's see what we got going on at our number 2 pick. At number 2, we do have Raging Bolt EX with those extra Bravery Charms. And now we have Slitherwing, which can be quite good against some decks, such as Iron Thorns and, of course, Terrapagos EX. So really a solid tech across the board. And Raging Bolt is just so incredibly powerful. It's the best deck at going 2-prizer, 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 ripping your opponent to shreds viciously. The deck's not perfect by any means. It can be countered for sure. But at the same time, every deck isn't perfect, and I think like we can hold that against some decks more than others. Raging Bolt, where it does see success, is just through pure speed, its consistency of doing so, and again, its robust matchup spread. So if you're looking for a really good deck to just play at a local event, a regionals, anything, you really can't go wrong with Raging Bolt. Avoid your poor matchups, and we'll have to see exactly how it goes. But this is the list that I would 100% see, like you could see winning an event. And I mean, it did win an event. Caleb Gedimer is coming fresh off that dub. I think this list is very close to the list that he played. But for this week, this deck is not our number one deck. Which deck do you think is our number one deck? And we'll have to see exactly what that is. It's going to be coming up right up next. But if you want to put your guesses in the comments, or just use this time to like the video or be like, hey, I liked the video in the comments, that'd be awesome. Let's jump into our number one pick of the week. And at our number one spot this week, we have Lugia V-Star flying absolutely high above the rest. Lugia V-Star has had an incredible season so far, running it off with some top finishes at Worlds, finishes at Baltimore, Louisville, the regionals in Lille, the regionals in just everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's done so well. And I think that the build that I resonate the most with is going to be Kieran Ferris' list, in which he played at Louisville. I think his list is just so well defined of having some of the best cards in there. The 4 research, the 4 boss. Like, it just seems such a well built deck when it comes down to it. I think its matchup spread is incredibly powerful. Sure, it might be a little bit of coin flips here or there to see if you get something with Aroma or Messagosa, or if you're going first or second, but reasonably, I think you can play through those odds and see a lot of success when it comes down to it. So if you're looking to advance to that day to maybe make a deep tournament run, as long as you avoid lightning type Pokemon or anything that just beats Lugia V-Star, like maybe Aerodactyl V-Star, you'll have a great day with Lugia. Practice this deck, practice against this deck. Certainly going to be one of the top 2 decks at for the foreseeable future in the metagame. And I could still say the same thing for Sacramento and Surging Sparks. It looks like our top 3 decks, the Regidrago, Raging Bolt, and Lugia, are all going to be format mainstays until those decks rotate, until we at least see the rotation coming up. So what we got going on for our number one pick, let me close things out. And there we have it. Lugia remains on top. Is it going to continue to stay on top as we see other major events going on around the world? Well, you're gonna have to find out, and that's a great place to plug in the Shuffle Squad's YouTube. Be sure to give this video a like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more great content. As for me, I'm preparing for the Latin American International Championships in this format, and I actually just booked my flight to Sacramento, and that's going to be the first Surging Spark event that we have outside of Asia. So I'm really excited to play back-to-back weekends of 2 tournaments, 2 different formats, and really prepare for those. If you're trying to up your game, hit me up for some coaching at metafy.gg at Zach Lesage. Other than that, feel free to message me in the comments. Let me know exactly what you think about this video, any suggestions, questions, comments, concerns. I'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.